Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Breakout. Tonight's showcase theme is Summer Games. We have sports, we have racing, we have bugs. I don't know about you, but that sounds like an excellent time. So, first up we've got Sonic Mania, run by Snowball SMB.
Hello everyone, my name is Snowball, and this is going to be Sonic Mania Amy New Game Plus No Major Glitches. Sonic Mania is a really cool collection of zones from Sonic's 1, 2, CD, and 3 and Knuckles, as well as a few unique zones to the game. And there is a community-made mod that puts Amy Rose into the game as a playable character with her own unique moveset, which is really cool, that I will get into shortly into the run. New Game Plus means I'll have all of the Chaos Emeralds from the get-go, so almost every stage I'll be transforming into Super Amy. There's a reason why it's not every stage that I'll touch on in the run. With that out of the way, gonna give a quick countdown and then we'll be off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Totally not me, almost having a panic moment thinking, oh no, I don't have live split up. I don't need live split up for this. This is a marathon run. So any, good Sonic starts with Green Hill. And fortunately, Green Hill has 50 rings very quickly. You need 50 rings once you have all of the emeralds to transform into Super State. Big rings are in this game and function as the sort of like portals into the special stages where you get the Chaos Emeralds. Once you have all 7, if you collect a big ring, it will automatically give you 50 rings instantly, which is very handy for getting an instant Super State activation requirement, or for just drastically increasing the amount of time that you can stay in Super State, because when you're Super, your ring count will drop 1 ring per second, so you have to keep that in mind. But Amy's got a really cool moveset. She's got a hammer flip / hammer jump. I switch between what I call it between the two quite a bit. That gives her a huge amount of height, which lets her reach higher paths with ease. She also has a heli hammer, which gives her a massive hitbox while in the air, and also just lets her fall significantly slower. Amy, let's hammer flip up there, thank you. I did grab some speed shoes and an invincibility monitor, so I don't need to activate Super State quite yet, but now I do, because fumbling around a little bit trying to get up to this top route is going to lower the time that these speed shoes will be active in a productive manner. For some reason, I've always found Green Hill Act 2 to be one of the hardest stages to get through optimally. It is a deceptively difficult speed route. But now we are moving on into Chemical Plant. And something really cool about the returning zones in this game is Act 1 is usually a sort of mashup of stage elements from the various act numbers from the game that they originated from, and then Act 2 is usually something completely new with, or at least mostly new, usually with a fancy little gimmick. So the stage gimmick for Green Hill Act 2 was the zip lines. And Chemical Plant has a really cool Act 2 mechanic that actually we get a little sneak peek of in the boss fight of Act 1. But here I'm going to go to the right. 2, 3, 4, jump heli hammer, jump down the ramp, and we are into the boss. The boss is going to drop down into this dark blue flubber, and the flubber is the stage mechanic for Act 2. Dark blue flubber damages you, light blue gives you a little bounce, green flubber gives you a big bounce, and purple sort of is just like a transportation flubber. This stage is one of my favorites in the game up until the boss. The boss sucks. And will probably be there for a little while because I'm not very good at Puyo Puyo, and it just so happens to be Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and I just tried to go a little too quick. I wasn't sure where the cycle was going to be, and I probably should have taken that a little bit slower, but I got a little greedy. Double up in the pipes there to go to the route that I want. Getting hit when I did is going to not be that big of a deal, especially since I was able to grab some extra rings there. But I need to take this section a little bit slower, because if I'm super, then I can just drop down there instantly. But now I can pop super here, fly up with the green. Usually you have to go all the way to the right and then bounce back on a loop and wind your way up a long and slow thing, but Super Amy can just jump off that little slope and skip pretty much all of that. Big jump up here, jump down the ramp. Okay, get hit by some interesting slope physics. Do another jump off of a slope to just skip a lot of back and forth. Turn this into some more green flubber, down another pipe, up and over, and we are heading on into Time Loss Land, the boss. I'm going to just be playing Puyo pretty badly, so if there are any messages from the host, this is a great time for that, because, yeah, we're gonna be here for a bit.
Absolutely. Someone in chat asked if the dark blue flubber hurts you, then why does it look so tasty? And I kind of agree, like...
Fair question. Ask Eggman. He's the one that I think built the flubber.
Okay, note to self, ask Eggman later.
And that was actually a decent play, which feels very wrong because I'm the one playing. And it normally doesn't go swimmingly.
I mean, that's the Summer Games magic.
Okay, there we go. Alright, that, not the greatest, but definitely could have gone significantly worse, especially since Puyo Puyo is not my strong suit. Next up is the first Sonic Mania original zone, Studiopolis. This one has a cool bit of lore, being sort of like the stage that resulted in this game's creation. Like, this was the zone that was sent to Sega as, like, whatever it was sent to Sega as sort of like the proof of concept for Sonic Mania. So very, very cool. I'm not the biggest fan of speedrunning this level, though. It's the sort of resident, it's full of bumpers stage. But it does have this big ring that's right next to the path, so an instant super state that is going to last quite a while is very, very handy. Especially since we have another auto-scroller boss coming up. But I am going to grab that lightning shield. There are 3 different types of elemental shields. There are fire shields, lightning shields, and bubble shields. In addition to giving you an extra hit of HP, the lightning shield gives you a ring magnet and shields you from taking damage from electricity. The fire shield will shield you from taking damage from fire or lava. And the bubble shield will prevent you from being able to drown, which is important for 2 stages, 1 zone. That will be later in the run, and will get a decent amount of play utilization, because there is a couple decent stretches where we will be underwater. But this is the first of the hard-boiled heavies. This is Heavy Gunner. 1, 2, 3, top, middle, bottom. It's RNG which order he shoots the missiles in, but the top missile is number 1. That is the first one that'll appear on the screen from the right. Middle is 2, bottom is 3, so on and so forth. It's actually good RNG. That was only 1-3, so I'll take it. Usually I get into a marathon and Heavy Gunner's like, marathon time? Alright, 3 3s and a 2, let's do this. But 1-3-2-1, I will gladly take that. And I am very, very glad that I was able to keep this lightning shield. I don't know why I would have lost it. But the lightning shield is definitely handy for this stage for grabbing more rings early on. And just... And then of course I run into this guy because I normally don't fall down here. Go away, ball. Alright, now we're back on the path. Every once in a while, these weird little, like, I don't know what those are supposed to be. I like to call them little dandelion balls, even though they're very much not dandelions. Every once in a while, you just don't get the collision on them, which is very tragic when that happens. But there is a ring monitor for 10 there. Very important to know your backups for ring counts. Ow. Fortunately, there are lots and lots of rings right along the path for extras. And Super State here is pretty important just to, like, really speed this section up, because this is a very slow, sluggish area that kind of sucks to play if you're not in Super State. So making sure that you have that there is very, very important. Come on, Amy. Okay, or don't. Every once in a while I try to go for the greedy jump there, and every single time I mess it up and end up slowly falling down the movie reel. Maybe I should just stop going for that, because it only saves like a second and I never hit it. Oh my gosh, I am getting destroyed by these bumpers tonight. Fortunately, we are almost out from under the wrath of the bumpers. Now it's just a few little loop-de-loops until we get to Eggman's weather forecast robot that kind of sucks. I mean, it does forecast the weather, but it's kind of already been blown up. So that was a boss fight. Also, Amy's hammer flip / hammer jump is very, very handy for popping those animal capsules that float down from the top of the screen nice and early. Very, very powerful ability. But now we're coming up to a classic. We got Flying Battery. This is also just one of the scariest zones in a speedrun setting, at least for me personally, because there are a lot of things that can just decide your run is over. I am going to grab that fire shield for a bit of protection, and also there's a very cheeky placement of a one of those fire jets, pretty much just blocking the this little corridor back into the ship. If you start moving to the left too early, it will just end your speedrunning career. Because you'll get hit, you'll lose all your rings, and then you'll not be able to pop Super State for a good while, and at that point you pretty much just want to reset the level, because this stage is brutal without Super State, to the point where you are losing a lot of time if you lose super early. and actually play it out. And that's another spring I don't know why I ever go for, because Super Amy's just so quick. Every once in a while I get the positioning of that doors button mixed up if it's on the ceiling or floor, because I also run Sonic and Knuckles New Game Plus in Sonic Origins a decent amount with Amy as well, and between Sonic Mania and Sonic and Knuckles, one game has it on the ceiling, the other has it on the floor. And every once in a while I get confused, like, wait, which game is it that has it on which? But we are once again getting a little bit of a sneak peek at what the next stage's mechanic is. We've got garbage. Oh my god, come on Amy, spin dash, there we go. There are lots of piles of garbage that you can just sort of sink through, drop down to lower levels. This is another stage that's got a big ring right off the path, and it is nice and early. This is a little bit of a frightening area because those mines, if both of those mines detonate, then a hole will open up in the floor. That part of the stage is just over thin air. Okay. Amy, please go in the hole. Thank you. Don't go in the sparkles. Thank you. Ah, Amy. What are you doing tonight? Well, what am I doing tonight? I'm the one controlling Amy. Amy is feeling a bit adventurous. Let's go with that. But now coming up, this is one of my favorite sequences in the game, of just like little jumps here and there to skip various stage moving element cycle thingies that just looks super satisfying when done properly, and feels very satisfying as well. Last time I ran this in a marathon, I slipped between a gap there and fell off and lost my super state. That really slowed down the boss, so I'm going to be extra careful with where I fly off of that pole. But now we are coming up to Eggman's spider robot. This one's sort of interesting. The body of it is a bumper, and we have to just sort of jump into him, shove him into some spikes. It's not always the most responsive to getting hit in certain directions, and you can him too early, and that's not good. Sometimes the spikes will be like off the screen and you'll take damage. It's strange. You also have to be careful, because if you're positioned directly underneath a set of spikes as the elevator is going up, you will get crush killed, and that will lose a lot of time. Also, that boss fight is sort of the first major route deviation point between no major glitches and the glitched run, because there's actually a way to skip that boss. When I was outside of the flying battery in that last section, the final ceiling that I was running on that took me back into the flying battery, I could have jumped off there and heli-hammered and done effectively a screen wrap to the area where the animal capsule is, because the boss is the animal capsule is at the very least below that part of the stage. The game just visually tricks you into thinking that it's above, but it's in actuality below. The thing is, it's a very tight window. I think it's only a few frames. And if you mess up the timing for the heli-hammer, then you will get soft-locked. So I prefer my comfy cozy, no major glitches, also just because I have more fun playing games glitchless. But anyway, we're in Press Garden. I had to real quick make sure I knew which Eggman Press stage this was, because in Sonic Superstars, there's also Press Factory. And Press Factory is actually, not just in Superstars, but in 2D Sonic as a whole, one of my favorite stages. At the very least, Act 2. So I always, whenever I run Sonic Mania, ever since I started doing a little bit of Superstars running, I always have to, like, mentally ask myself, hey, which press zone is this? They're both very, very good zones, but I did go off the track a little bit towards the end of the stage to grab this fire shield. That's important because there is one trait of the fire shield that I did not mention earlier, and that is when you have a fire shield, it prevents you from being able to get frozen. And Press Garden Act 2 is the game's resident snow and ice level. Fortunately, that element of the fire shield does shut off when you activate Super State, which is very, very nice, or else you could get soft locked while in Super State, which would be most unfortunate. And I've lost the fire shield anyway, but that shouldn't be that big of a deal to get hit there because I'm almost to the point where Super State gets activated. Also, this is one of the hardest main routes on a stage to have everything go properly, because there's a little bit of funny momentum shenanigans with getting frozen up here, and getting frozen here is actually pretty tough, and that's not gonna do it, Amy. Okay, let's see. Didn't get frozen there. Alright, time for the backup route. Fortunately, there is a fairly simple backup. It does lose a little bit of time. Come on, Amy, we don't want to get frozen. Now that's fine. You have to crash into the yellow spring there. And with no sort of momentum at all, that's not really going to happen. Right. Go up here, spin dash through the wall. These platforms, unfortunately, do have, or they are solid on the bottom, so you can't just jump through them like some platforms, which does make that route a little bit more tedious, because the main route is very direct, but you have to get frozen by that first sort of ice block that I got frozen by, near the top of the slope that it appears on. And it's very, very tight timing, especially with how quick and slidey Super Amy is. But now we are going on over to Sonic CD. We've got Stardust Speedway, but we are in the past. This is probably my worst level in the game, just because I don't vibe with it. And I don't think the stage vibes with me either. Hopefully what's going to happen is just the usual get 50 rings, pop Super State, go to the boss, beat up the boss. That doesn't always happen. And sometimes I just end up on routes that I'm very much not supposed to be on. Oh my god. Yeah. At least I'm still on the main route. If I get to the boss without Super State, that's honestly not that big of a deal. It does slow it down a little bit, but there's this cool thing that I can do that I like to do quite a bit in my video gaming called damage boosting. That I probably will have to rely on because I don't think there are too many more rings on this stage. But I am prone to getting thrown onto the wrong path on this stage and lose like a minute. So fortunately, staying on the right path, even if my movement speed is a little bit slower, that is still going to be, yeah, there are times where I'm at the boss like at least 15 seconds slower than this. I do not like these fireflies. I don't like them in Sonic CD. I don't like them in Sonic Mania. But fortunately, we are through the little ones, so should be able to get... Yeah, there we go. Just a few damage boosts, and honestly, that wasn't really that much slower of a boss fight than with Super State. But this next stage, I do need to be much more careful. Fortunately, I am much better at Act 2 than I am at Act 1. We have gone to the future, back to the present for Act 2, and Metal Sonic will be waiting for us at the end of the stage with a 3-phase boss fight. One of the coolest boss fights and boss musics in the game, in my opinion. And I personally like to think that the true rivalry that started all the way back in Sonic CD was actually Amy and Metal Sonic, and as opposed to, you know, the classic Sonic and Metal Sonic. Both are good rivalries. But Amy and Metal, you know, I'm going to take that path through the top there. I do need to be a little bit careful because there is a hole right there. Heli Hammer right under that bumper. That's actually really tight timing to get under the bumper, and I believe that's actually slightly faster by probably like half a second, so I'm very satisfied with that. Here we go, going to activate Super State now. The reason why I wait until I'm already at the boss and Metal Sonic has shown up is because, as I mentioned before, this is a 3-phase fight, and it's not a short one. This first phase is a sort of classic Sonic CD Stardust Speedway style race. Metal, can you please go in the hole? Thank you. Now I need to hit some energy balls and possibly the Silver Sonics back into him. The thing is, hitting the curled up Silver Sonics into him actually deals 2 hits worth of damage, but it is really hard to angle it right. And I'm like not angling it at all, which is fine, because they're still dropping down and the energy balls are still hitting. Fortunately, that missed. Okay, now I'm going to just... I think he might be... Yeah, he was 1 hit away anyway, so I probably should have just gone for the energy ball, but I wanted to get fancy. I wanted to style on Metal Sonic. It didn't work. Now the final phase is actually a callback to Knuckles Chaotix, with Metal Sonic Kai, I believe, is the name of this form. This is actually a pretty frightening phase of the boss, at least in my opinion, unless you have Super State. If you're in Super State, much like pretty much every other boss, it becomes laughably easy. You do have to be a little bit careful though, because the floor behind Metal Sonic is dropping away, and it's not too difficult to slip and fall into the hole, and that's not good. But now we are into... We've got... Hydro City, or Hydrocity, or however you pronounce it. I personally pronounce it Hydro City just because I feel like it rolls off my tongue, personally, a little bit better than the alternatives. Let's go down here, into the water. This is the stage that I was talking about earlier that has the bubble shield, which does make quite a bit of sense, as this is the only real water level. I do need to be a little bit quick, because there are piranha robots that if they grab you while you're pulling one of the levers in like a specific way, it'll soft lock the game. Don't ask how I know this, but I'm always very careful about that. Now I need to pull this lever, go this way, and I need to make sure that I don't get crush killed. There we go. That part's a little bit scary because the box cycles makes it very easy to get crush killed, and there's not a single checkpoint before there, so... And that's over a minute into the stage, so if you get crush killed there, you are simply out of luck. Which is very unfortunate, because this is like one of the only stages where it really does not matter. if you have Super State for the boss fight or not. Like, Eggman's in his scuba suit. He has left his Eggmobile completely unattended. And we are going to capitalize on that situation. We are going to just load on up here, and this is actually a reverse of the Hydro City Act 2 boss fight from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where Eggman will create these columns of water and try to pull you up to hit you with the propeller, but then you jump on the water as it's lifting up and it acts as a platform and you bonk him anyway. Or if you're Amy, you just jump high enough and hit him anyway. Eggman, like, does not build these things with, I feel like, any of his opponents in mind. I was going to say mostly Tails and Amy in mind, but really any of them. Now we are moving on into one of my personal favorite stages of the game, Hydro City Act 2. Got some really, really cool skips on this one. We're gonna skip a very large portion of the stage. There are two sort of figure eights that the game wants you to go through, of top left to bottom right to top right to bottom left. We're gonna ignore that. That's fine that I got hit there and lost the bubble shield because there's another one later on in the level. So fortunately, that's not going to be an issue. And also, fortunately, there are, I believe 53 is the exact number, of rings right along the path that works out very conveniently, because if you don't have Super State, or if you're running, like, no emeralds, this skip becomes an absolute nightmare with Amy, because it is incredibly difficult for her to get over without the increased speed from Super State, even with her Heli Hammer. And if you don't make it all the way over there, then you just sort of fall through the slide. And that's not good. But there's that bubble shield. Also, it's not really that big a deal if you don't have the bubble shield. It's more just like a safety precaution for the boss more than anything. But there's the second figure eight that we totally played. And we are to the boss. This, I do think, is a contender for the biggest example in this game, though, of Eggman didn't think anything through. So, he put mines in the water when this machine is weak to mines specifically. I don't know what he thought was going to happen, but unfortunately got a little bit of bad RNG. So that phase went a bit slower, and now we actually have just a remaster of the Hydro City Act 1 boss from 3 and Knuckles. And now, another capsule that's going to fall, and then I need to jump over onto sort of an invisible piece of collision, or geometry, or whatever, on that quarter pipe, because this cutscene you unfortunately can't skip, but if you're there, Amy will slide down all the way to the other quarter pipe, get hit by the jet of water, slide down, and pretty much be at the exit doorway right away. And there's very little of just waiting for Amy to walk off screen that we'll have to do. Now we are to Mirage Saloon Act 1. It is the resident plane level, so this is the perfect time for messages from the host, because there is literally nothing happening here for like a minute and a half.
Alright, well... cool upcoming events that are happening in the community. On June 22nd, on Sunday, we'll be having Fool Around and Find Route, which is a skills-based event where you are shown approachable 100% run and given Q&A time and equipped with all the tools you need to route an any percent run. We'll be joined by Organ Mike for this event, and they'll be sharing their expertise in Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar. So that is really exciting. I'm personally very excited because I don't know how to route, and that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. Okay, this is actually... I realize there is something that I mentioned just before the run started that this is the perfect opportunity for me to explain. I commented on how I would be activating Super State on most stages, but not all of them. This is like the prime example of not activating Super State on this stage. For one thing, I don't have enough rings to do so anyway. But usually I do at this point, but I don't. Because, one, it's an auto-scroller, so it doesn't really do anything. But two, more importantly, the increased speed and slidiness actually makes it possible to fall off the plane. I have done that before. And it is time loss that I never want to have happen again. So I just opt to not do that. But now we've got a giant caterpillar that we've got to take out, and this fight is pretty RNG, unfortunately. Hopefully it's good cycles. 1, 2... Okay, I think I'm at 4, but I honestly did not hear if I got the third hit on those jumps or not. Okay, cool, I did. Let's go. Alright, so that was pretty solid RNG. Like 3 cycles is... You can get it in 2 cycles, but that's incredibly rare. So I will gladly take the 3. And now in Mirage Saloon Act 2, I feel like I'm always going a different route whenever I play this stage, but fortunately, like, pretty much every route on this stage is fast and pretty much the exact same amount of time. So, I'm gonna just let Amy take the wheel for this stage and see where we end up. But this stage, I do need these rings from this loop. This stage has some cool callbacks to some classic Sonic characters. During the boss fight, we'll be up against the third of the hard-boiled heavies, Heavy Magician. And she will be transforming into some characters that honestly I wish would come back more often. Actually, one of them did show up in a game recently, that game being Sonic Superstars. But we are going to be saying hello to, I mean, not the real deals, but to the hooligan team of Fang, Bean, and Bark. So first up is Fang, going to bonk once, get 1 hit on Heavy Magician, and then bonk Fang again and do another 2 hits. Going to do that with Bean as well, and then go for just 2 hits on Heavy Magician straight away during the Bart the Polar Bear segment. And that is because anytime Heavy Magician takes 2 hits of damage, she'll go back into the box and transform into a different one of the hooligans. So it's just faster to get 3 hits on the first 2, as opposed to doing a second cycle on Fang. Next up, Oil Ocean. This is a stage that has a lot of sentimental value to me, as there are lots of good memories of this stage that I have from when I was little baby Snowball playing Sonic 2 with my family. Of course, this stage is a bit different in this game. Like, there's a big ring chilling there. I don't think that big rings were really a thing in Sonic 2. But the gist of the stage is still the same, except in this game, at least for Act 1, we're running through the oil rig to go beat up Bob the Builder. Because he's... I don't know what he's doing, but he's making a mess of things at the oil rig or something like that. Actually, I think Amy's the one who's doing that, but... You know what? Eggman doesn't need this operational. This is another instance of... That's a boss fight. Super Amy is kinda OP. Now we're getting, yet again, a sneak peek of the Act 2 gimmick. We have Smog. And the Smog functions very, very similarly to the lights dimming mechanic of Standopolis Act 2 from Sonic & Knuckles. Slightly differently, of course. The lights on Sandopolis as they dim will cause ghosts to grow bigger and stronger and more aggressive. The smog here on Oil Ocean after a while will start having a 1 ring per second draining effect like Super State does, except you're not in Super State. It's just an active hindrance. But both are remedied by these levers that are hanging from various places throughout the stage. So that's where the, like, big similarity between the two stages comes from. Also, this stage has one of the most satisfying bits of movement in the entire run, in my opinion, utilizing Super Amy's increased speed and the Helihammer ability. Because there are a few submarines, we don't want to go into the submarine because they're just extra bits of level that don't take you anywhere. They're just slow. But max charge spin dash off of that elevator at the earliest possible time you can into a Helihammer will take you right over the submarine hatch with a ton of speed and rocket you straight into the boss fight. And I'm going to take a sip of water because Eggman is going to just uselessly shoot at an invincible little speed demon. And fight over. And now we only have 3 different zones left, 6 levels to go. But they are all fairly long levels. First up of the final 3 is Lava Reef. And there's actually a minor little visual glitch for Act 2 that I am going to try to show off because it's really, really cool. But we still have a bit of time to go before we are there. This is pretty much the one major instance of going off the main path to grab rings. As it's very early, there are enough rings to get you up to Super State, and the increased speed offsets going off the path, and then some by quite a bit, because this is a really long level. So having that increased speed for the maximum amount of time that you can is definitely ideal. This is also just... Amy, come on, let's go. There we go. This is just also generally a bit of a stressful level because there are a handful of different things that can crush kill you. And that's, you know, that's never good. But also, because it's so long, you've got to move kind of quickly to make sure that you don't lose your Super State before the boss. As it's definitely handy to have the invincibility for this boss because there's lava and falling debris and rocks and stalactites, and it's just one thing after another. There are a couple ring monitors over here that I like to grab just for an extra bit of safety. Now I'm going to jump off this wall and bang my head on the ceiling. Ideally, you can get really, really far up that staircase with a jump off of that wall timed right, but it is so incredibly tight on the timing. And speaking of tight timing. It's not really tight timing, but I did mess up the timing on that jump. I went a little bit late. Fortunately, though, it's the backup route is just a couple of springs that are literally right below where I fell down. Taking this elevator should be putting us just about to the boss. There are a few floors there that I need to break, and then I'm gonna jump back up. And now, there's actually a boss that cannot take damage from Super Amy, at least not immediately, because it has sort of glowing awesome hedgehog protective armor. The one downside to that armor is it's not lava proof, and it's put in a cave full of lava. So, yeah. I'm not going to skip this cutscene immediately because of that little cool visual glitch that I mentioned. Amy is going to jump onto this elevator and spin dash it down a bit. The screen is going to fade. And then I'm going to skip the cutscene, and now we have Lights Off Lava Reef. It's not quite as dim as it could be, but still it is plenty dim enough to really show off the spectacular sparkle of the crystals in this cave. This stage, I wish that the lights out glitch would last all the way into the boss fight and for the boss fight, but unfortunately there is like another screen transition while running into the boss arena. Also, this part's really scary because if you walk onto those platforms at the wrong point of the cycle, you're gonna just get crush killed. There are lots of places that you can get crush killed if you're not careful in this game. It's a very hazardous game. Ow. Yeah, the timing for the double jump there to avoid getting smacked by that chimney is actually surprisingly tight. Fortunately, there is this fire shield, so I won't have to worry about the fact that I'll have to run on lava now without, You know what, there's a ring monitor up here. I'm gonna grab that. Know where your backup rings are just in case of an emergency, because now I don't have to run on lava with my fire shield. Even though it would not have been an issue, but now I don't have to worry about accidentally running into that one badnik that is just chilling in the lava because it wants to. Nice. I was a little bit worried that I was hitting that platform at an unfavorable point of the cycle and have to wait another cycle, but the not heli hammer. The hammer flip was just barely enough height to get me up there. And now we are coming up to the final of the hard-boiled heavies, and I don't think I want to say most annoying because Heavy Gunner's fight is very annoying, but Heavy Rider is also very, very annoying. So let's see how this goes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, she didn't really do anything there, so that was very helpful. 2 zones to go. Next up, we have Metallic Madness. This is another stage, I believe the only other stage, where I will be opting to not activate Super State. That is because of once again, the real slidiness that Super State gives Amy. And this stage is actually the only, even though it's a Sonic CD stage, this stage has the only returning boss fight from Sonic 1. Oh wait, I can just go back up. I've never fallen down there, but I didn't know. That's like the one spot if you fall down, you don't need to reset the level. Let's go. This is a very go top route or reset the stage type level. But the boss fight is the final zone boss from Sonic 1, with some quality of life improvements to it. And it's very, very easy to just, once again, get crush killed. by the pistons, especially if you are in Super State and have that increased slidiness. So I usually prefer to just take a tiny bit of time loss on the actual stage itself, in favor of safety. But the stage also has a really cool gimmick of like some of the stage being in the background as opposed to all of it being in the foreground. We don't really see that until right here at the end of the stage, because going to the background pretty much any other place is slow. And we're speedrunners, we want to go fast. This is the boss fight where we learn to count to 4. Even though it's a 2-phase fight. But quality of life changes. There are now 5 pistons instead of 4. And 2 pistons that are directly next to each other cannot fire at the same time. So there will always be, at the very least, a 1 piston gap in between the 2 that fire, which is so nice. And now we are going into phase 2, which is the desperation phase. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And unfortunately, next stage is the one stage in the game where the super music will play, even with disabling super music. And I say unfortunately because you usually activate Super State right before Eggman enters into an absolutely legendary saxophone solo. But the sort of gimmick of Act 2 is these lasers that turn you into Chibi Amy. And then there are other lasers that will make you big again. But if you activate Super State while you are Chibi Amy, then the super music will play anyway. Which is, it is fine. The super music is very good, but also Metallic Madness Act 2 music is very, very good. I'm gonna just go since those pistons are pretty much angled up. Amy, we want to go back up. There we go. Down here, around, jump, make sure not to get crushed. Go up here. Jump up all the way to the highest level, spin dash, helihammer on over, and see what sort of cycle on this platform up here we are going to be hitting. Pretty good one, actually. Down this tube. Down and around. And we're to the boss, with some callbacks to bosses from previous games, as well as, while playing the Amy Mania mod, a callback to another classic Sonic character who I really hope comes back sometime soon. If you're playing as anyone else, the little robo dolls will be Amy dolls. But when you're playing as Amy, they are little robo dolls of Honey the cat. And I wish that they would do more with Honey. I think that her design is super, super cool. I am going to spin dash into that laser and jump, flick left, so that way when I bounce backwards from it, it will bounce me actually backwards through the laser. Cool little bit of speed tech it saves like a second or two. And now we are to the fourth and final of the Sonic Mania original zones, as well as the final zone of the game. And also personally my favorite in the game, Titanic Monarch. This is just a really, really cool zone. We're pretty much running around, sort of like, blanking on it, but like a big sort of robot production facility thing that's creating the Titanic mining. Colossal scale. I do kind of wish that there was like the final boss was you're flying around in super state fighting the actual Titanic monarch, because that would have been such a cool spectacle with how giant this thing is. Act 2 we will be running around, I believe, inside the Titanic monarch, which is pretty cool. I do wish that we got to actually fight it, though. That would have been awesome. But I do need to be careful up here because spikes, crush kills, you know, the Sonic special, pretty much. I need to be careful because those spikes, I have been crush killed very recently. And that's really, really not good when that happens. Okay, I have never gotten 2 of those jumps out of the orb in a row. That's actually pretty cool. And I believe slightly faster. We should be coming up to the end of the stage before long. This has actually been going very well. Except for this, I don't want to go in that orb, because that's a little bit slow. But almost got to the top of the springs. If you have just enough speed, you can actually pop above those springs and hit them instantly and skip an orb, which is real nice. But this is Crimson Eye. This fight is really, really annoying to do without Super State, because it is pretty much just damage boost endlessly. But Super Amy doesn't have to worry about that. 1 stage to go, and the longest. There are 5 rooms to Titanic Monarch Act 2. There's this sort of opening room, and then there are 4 rooms that we can do in whatever order we want, of top left, bottom left, top right, and bottom right. I do want that shield, thank you very much. I am going to be taking the bottom left room first, because each of these rooms have a sort of like secret exit towards the end that will take you to a little sort of like bonus room sort of area that has a 10 ring monitor as well as a monitor for a specific type of shield. The type of shield that you get from the secret room for the bottom left room is a lightning shield. And that ring magnet is so powerful on this stage that we definitely want to get that as early as possible. Because if we have that as early as possible, that means that we can safely activate Super State as early as possible. And that lets us go fast. So now I'm going to grab these. Also, this is, in my opinion, the best zone theme, musically speaking, in the game. This part's really stressful because you can get crush killed by those pistons super easily, and if you get crush killed there, you do have to restart the stage because you lose your super state, you lose the lightning shield, you lose access to the lightning shield. It's not good, and I'm going to just completely miss that jump. No one saw that. Alright, we should be mostly in the clear now that we're past various things in this room that can result in crush kills. I cannot believe I have never jumped out of the car too early. That feels like something I would be doing all the time. But bottom right, this has another one of the most satisfying bits of movement in the entire run if I can hit it properly at the end. Very tight timing on a couple of hammer flips and a heli hammer. I think a heli hammer, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll remember as soon as I'm there. The muscle memory is everything. Hammer flip did that a little late, but still have the speed to make this happen. Okay, so if the spring hits you back into one of those poles... Ooh, that's a fire shield that I did not want to grab. If you get hit back into one of the poles, then you don't need to heli hammer, but if you get a smooth double jump up there, then you will heli hammer up to the end. So it all depends on how things go. Fortunately, this room is really, really short, so losing the lightning shield shouldn't actually be that big of a deal, because most of the rings are actually, like, just on the way, so you're gonna crash into them anyway. And, yeah, very, very short room. But now we have the final boss. 16 hits. Time is going to be on the 16th hit. This fight's kind of scary, unless you're in Super State. Also, don't ask how it happened, because I genuinely don't know. I have been crush killed in Super State by this boss before, which I don't think is supposed to be possible, but I've made it happen. So that's 5 hits down. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, now Eggman is going to grab us with the Phantom Ruby's power, take us into Heavy Gunner's lair. Heavy Gunner is the only one of the hard-boiled heavies that we will be seeing return in this fight, because Super Amy just shreds this boss. But Heavy Shinobi's room is kinda devious. I actually genuinely do not remember Heavy Magician's room, and Heavy Rider's room is actually just pretty cool. But time. Ooh, my ring count was getting low there. I only had 6 left. And now Sonic has, you know, gotten the escape vehicle because honestly, I don't know why. Normally, I think it's Tails who's in the car there, but I think Sonic could probably just run faster than this thing. But, you know, spectacle. And really cool part of the mod, Amy now shows up in the ending cutscene. There she is. I am so happy that, like, Amy is in the ending cutscene in the mod. I think it's super, super cool. But that is Sonic Mania Amy New Game Plus No Major Glitches. Shoutouts to Binary Breakers for letting me show off this run. I love this game to pieces, and this is a very important speedrun to me because this was actually the very first Sonic speedrun of any kind that I ran. So, super, super happy to show it off. Shoutouts to all my friends in the Sonic scene, in the Sonic speedrunning community, and shoutouts to all my friends over at FPE. And shameless plug, you can find me on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Blue Sky at Snowball SMB. I like to play Sonic games. I like to play Super Monkey Ball. That's what the SMB stands for. I like to play some Pokemon and occasionally some Mario games and indie games and just lots of fun vibes. But yeah, once again, thank you so much, Binary Breakers, everyone at Binary Breakers, for letting me show this off.
It was absolutely wonderful having you. What an awesome run.